Everyone, and welcome back to the last episode of A Millennial Mind Part 2. So I wasn't intending to do this in the studio, and if you've been watching my stories, you'll know that I was going to record Part 2 at home. However, in the last 3 days, 3 guests have cancelled on me, which means I now have 3 hours of recording time that I need to fill pretty last minute. This podcast is going to be recorded in 4 hours, and I just found out 1 minute before my session that the guests won't be able to come. So please bear with me if I am not speaking very articulately. I'm not feeling very well. And yeah, I'm just feeling a little bit sorry for myself today. So if you can do me a massive favor and please hit the subscribe button. And if you like this video, please also press like and share a comment with me below about what you want me to cover next. So in my last video, I was explaining my journey between January till July. I was meant to go up until December, but I talked too much and I was giving you way too much detail. So I'm going to actually go back to July today because I was in a bit of a rush. I only had 4 minutes to record and I don't think I explained everything in very much detail. So I'm going to go back to July and tell you what was happening. July was a very special month for me in so many ways, not because it's my birthday month. I'm not really one of those people that spends like months and months on her birthday, but it was a very special month for me because it was when things started to really change. Now, at the start of at the start of July, I was struggling a lot with managing everything. I was doing other people's podcasts. I was invited to GoDaddy's podcast and I was getting 4, 5, 6 requests a month, which for me was quite a lot when I'm trying to record 4 or 5 episodes myself and then go on 5 episodes of other people's and then also manage my full-time job whilst also trying to stay sane. So during this month, I was finding it really, really difficult. And also I knew that during July, I had to start thinking about Performance Planner because it takes at least 6 months for everything to go through in terms of design, concept, speaking with the suppliers, sorting everything out. So during that time, I was designing the new Performance Planner as well. I also started working with an editor. Now, with an editor, the reason why I struggled with it was because I was recording 1 podcast a week and then the next week I'd release it. Now, to work with an editor on such a tight schedule is impossible. It's really unfair for me to even ask him to do that. And I only recognized that after when I could see how tight the deadline was. So, for example, I'd record a podcast on a Wednesday. What I would do is on Thursday between 5 a.m. till 8 a.m., I'd edit that podcast. And then I would then start my job. And then in the evening, I would make the little clips and all of that stuff. And I would do the same on Friday. I'd also do the thumbnails for Instagram, thumbnails for YouTube, thumbnails for TikTok. And initially, which is really funny now when I look back at my videos, during June, I was manually typing the subtitles out. I don't know what I was thinking, but I remember it would take me an hour per video to manually type each subtitle out, to make the text smaller. I was doing it on InShot, which is an app. It was just ridiculous. So in July, when I finally was working with this editor, I was so happy because he was taking a lot off my plate. However, I still had to review the episode. I still had to go through the entire episode and tell the editor which minutes to put in the Reels, TikTok, and on YouTube. And the reason why it was so important for me to do that is because I know my audience a lot better than an editor would know my audience. I know what I've said in a podcast that I think is going to have a greater impact than he would know. So during this time, it was still really difficult to review all of that content, even though I was working with an editor. But it did take away a big chunk of my time because I didn't have to check every single little thing. I could rely on him to do that. But July was a funny one because I remember with the podcast I recorded around Are Big Weddings a Waste of Money? This was a podcast I wanted to record for so long because I knew it was going to spark a lot of controversy and debate. I had had this debate so many times with so many people. And being a South Asian girl who's grown up in Britain, I feel like I was always asked, when am I going to get married? When am I going to get married? And I had these conflict personalities because a lot of people who are South Asian, they get married quite young. For a lot of people, I'm not saying everyone before everyone attacks me, for a lot of people, they do get married young, and a lot of my friends are married at this point. So for me to not be kind of obsessed with the idea of getting married, and for me to not be so, oh my God, I want to get married, marriage is the most important thing in the world, I knew that a lot of people also felt that too. And I had been saying this for a very long time. If you scroll back on my Instagram, if you scroll back on my TikTok, I have been saying for so long, stop asking me when you're getting married. But for some reason, in that podcast, that clip resonated with so many people. Now, I remember my editor, he had actually cut out a different clip to put in the Reels because the way I was releasing my content, as you'll be able to see, I'm very happy to share my strategy. I released a trailer, I released a guest reel, I released a host reel. So the guest reel was of the guest and the host reel is of me, and I released that on a Thursday. Now, for the one that he chose was very different from the one I chose, and I said, no. We have to include this one because I know people are going to resonate with it. Little did I know, so many people were going to resonate with it and the video was going to go viral. But anyway, in that month, in July, I uploaded this video about when am I going to get, don't ask me when I'm getting married, on Instagram. Now, I want to say something about viral videos. You never know which videos are going to go viral because my video took 2-3 weeks to go viral, if I'm completely honest. Actually, 2 weeks to go viral. I uploaded it on Instagram and on TikTok on Friday morning. I remember seeing it on someone else's TikTok. And I remember thinking, I didn't upload this video. And everyone was tagging me in the comments. And I was thinking, I'm so confused. Did I upload this video on TikTok? My mind was honestly such a blur at this stage. I didn't know what I was doing. So I was like, oh, I didn't upload this video. Who's uploaded it? This random girl didn't tag me, didn't give any credit to my podcast. And I was thinking, that's a bit weird. So I put a story up on Instagram. Do you think this is weird? And half people were like, yes, this is outrageous. Other half people were like, it's probably innocent. Now, it was very early on in the game at this time. And so I was like, it's very innocent. I don't really care. Thank you for doing it. And I messaged her and said, can you just tag me? And she said, yeah, of course. I'm really sorry. I didn't think. I said, that's totally fine. The video went viral on her TikTok. She got 1 million views in one day, 2 million views in like 2 days. I put it on my TikTok and I got 800 views. TikTok algorithm is crazy. I don't really understand it, but I was so shocked that the video was getting so much traction. What I did, because she didn't tag me, everyone in the comments were like, who is this girl? Who is this? Who is this girl? I commented back to every single person and said, it's me. So for some reason, it didn't get much attraction on my TikTok. My TikTok didn't really grow, but I really got a lot of attraction on Instagram and my video eventually went viral on Instagram. Now at this point, it was getting to 1 million, 1.5 million. You know, at this point, getting 100K, 200K views on my Instagram was huge for me. I'd never got that before. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, this video is getting 250K. Now it's getting 500K. Now it's getting 1 million views. I can't believe it. And my followers were going up and up and up. Like it was genuinely crazy. I remember I was on around 15,000 at the beginning of July. And then around 17,000 mid-July. And then overnight I went to 25. The next day it was 30. The next day it was 40. The next day it was 50. I don't even know how quickly it was growing, but I know within a space of a week, I went from around 17K to 53K, 55K. It was something like that. It was really crazy. And the amount of people that were messaging me saying how much this video resonated with them, I was genuinely shocked. I knew it would resonate with people, but I didn't know it was going to resonate with people this much. So at this point, I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I'd never, ever had a video go viral before. I had no idea that your followers can just increase like this. And I was genuinely quite surprised. I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I'd never had that before. And it was really sweet because all my friends would message me every day saying, oh my gosh, you've got this many. And my mom would come into my room and be like, 45, 47, 49. It was really sweet. And I remember at that time thinking, I remember wanting this for so long. And actually, it doesn't really mean anything. It's not going to change that much for me, apart from my followers going up. But it is just a vanity metric. And I remember saying that to myself to not be consumed by that number. I think a lot of people are consumed by the number that they have, and it's very easy to be, especially when I think you don't have it. So when I asked everyone what they want me to talk about, everyone has said, how did you grow? How did you get from 4,000 followers at the beginning of this year to now getting to 105,000? And we're so consumed in that number, but genuinely, when you take a step back from it, what does it actually mean? And it doesn't really mean that you're better than everyone else or your videos are better or whatever. I think it's really important to remember that. I believe I was very lucky because my video went viral. I do not think that I'm doing anything that is that crazy. And I'm not trying to put myself down here. I'm really just trying to say that I believe anyone can do it. I really, really do. If you have a strong message and you're doing things from an authentic place and things that you're sharing things that are important to you, that's what's going to come across. In that video, I was making a lot of impressions and making a lot of faces because that genuinely is me. If you know me, I'm very, very, very expressive. And what's been a game changer about this video podcast is the fact that you can all see my expressions. So you can see that it is genuinely how I am. I'm not really trying to act or anything. I think the problem with this chasing virality is a lot of people are trying to be someone else when all we need to be is be ourselves. And that was one of the videos I also released in August, which I'll talk about, is about how we should stop posting for clout because we're so obsessed with growing, we're so obsessed with virality. And during this time in July, I was really trying to humble myself at the same time and say, don't become so obsessed with the numbers. Okay, your followers have grown, this is amazing, you wanted this for so long, but so what? What's changed for you? Have you got a £10 million sponsorship? No. Have you got any sponsorship? No. Do I have a sponsor now? No. So I think it's important to remember that. Going back to working with the editor, I remember the editor calling me and saying, Shivani, I can't work with you anymore. And I remember thinking, oh my God, why? Why is this happening? But essentially what he said was, I need 10 days to edit your trailer, your podcast, and your 2 reels. Because I would send something, I would add comments, he would then send it back to me. It was a review process. We have to allow time for there to be mistakes. We have to allow time for the files to download. All of these files take a day for me to send to the editor, and then it takes him a day to send them to me, and then I have to download them and then check them and then send them back and forth. So it was getting really tricky. And he just said, look, unless you can give me the files 10 days before, it's very hard for me. And I understand that. I think during that time, because I was doing it myself, I was thinking, well, I just do it the day after and it's okay. But you have to remember, when you're working with someone else, they're not going to work as if it's their podcast. They're not going to work as if it's their baby. So I understood that. But at that time, I remember thinking, if the editor cannot keep up with my schedule, how the hell am I going to do it? Now, the reason why I couldn't send the editor the files before was because I had my job. I wasn't able to just take off 3 days and record 3 podcasts and then send it to him. The problem with booking guests in a studio, as I'm finding now, is if people cancel, I've just had 3 guests that have cancelled on me in 3 days. All have given me less than 24-hour notice, and it's not their fault, but it's really difficult for me because I was going to release 3 episodes in January and I thought it'd be fine, which meant in the first 2 weeks of January, I could record some more. So I'd always have a backlog. It's now Christmas next week. No one is going to record with me on Christmas week. I have my workshop on a Wednesday. I have another podcast on Thursday. And then on Saturday, it's Christmas Eve. On Friday, no one's going to want to come in and record a podcast. So it's really tricky when guests cancel on you. And especially when I had my job, when guests were canceling on me, it was even harder because I wasn't able to have those backup episodes. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to do that. So I just said to him, okay, it's fine. But I remember at this time feeling really panicked and really overwhelmed, thinking, how on earth am I going to do it? I have to quit. What am I going to do? And I remember at that point thinking, okay, I need a plan. So I went home, I put my name, like I've said before, in the middle of a mind map, and I wrote down all my revenue streams. And I thought, how can I monetize? What can I do? What was difficult though was now I had to do the editing. I had to reach out to the guests. I had to book the guests. I had to come to record the podcast. I was still working, and I'd used every single day of annual leave on my podcast. I only had 6 days left until the end of the year, and we were in July. And I'd used every single day for my podcast, apart from my trip to LA, but that was also to record a podcast. So I didn't have enough annual leave to start taking more time off to record these podcasts. And I was taking off half a day, as I mentioned before, because I didn't want to be rushed and run into the experience and record the podcast in a really bad way. So at this point I was thinking, okay, I need to quit. And during this time, one of my goals for the year was to move out. And I found a place in Notting Hill and I put a deposit down. Well, no, sorry. I was just about to put the deposit down and the lady cancelled on me 2 days before. I packed all of my things. I told my mom and dad, by the way, I'm Indian. I've talked about this before. If you haven't listened to my podcast with Anshul, go listen to it. I had to go through this whole ordeal and explain to my parents why it was important for me to move out, why it was important for me to be independent, why it was going to help me if I move out, how I'm going to stay in my job so I'll be able to still save money, because that was important to my parents because I'm renting, and for a lot of parents, they think it's a waste of money to rent. But I really wanted to do it by myself and I didn't want to take any help, and I just wanted to just be independent, and I really, really wanted to move out. It was something that I'd been wanting to do for so long. At this point, I had to make a decision. When I was thinking about my rental expenses, they were going to be around £2,500 a month for me to live out in London in a 1-bed flat with all my bills, with all my electricity, with the heating, with all of that stuff, to buy furniture, to go out and eat. I don't really go out to eat that much, but groceries, all of that stuff. It was going to be around 2,500 minimum if I literally lived like a pauper, because London is so expensive. And I know people are going to be like, oh my God, you could definitely live for 2,500. That's not what I'm saying. I would have to also have paid for the studio. I'd also have to pay for my travel, all of that stuff on top of it. It was working out to be a lot of money. So then I was thinking, okay, if I'm going to be spending £2,500 on pleasure, shouldn't I be pumping that money into my business? And so I thought, okay, I'm going to quit my job. And the 2,500 I will be saving by living at home. And I will then quit my job and I will go for it with the podcast. And I remember saying to myself, you have one life. This is your only opportunity to do it. Just go for it. Now it was time to tell my parents, who were not very happy about this decision. Obviously, my mum for a long time has been supportive over everything I do, but she's also very much someone who has really believed in me from even when I was never doing well in life, when I was lazy, whatever. She always said to me, you have something. And so when I told her, she was like, I get it. My mum follows me on Instagram. She watches my journey a lot more and she understands social media a little bit more. So she was very okay with me taking that risk. She was fine with it. My dad, on the other hand, I don't think understands social media as much. He doesn't understand how much money you can make from it. And I think for him, he's very conservative in the sense that he's always taught me to be really independent. So from his perspective, I didn't now have a job. I don't have a property. I'm not making any money from my podcast. And I'm choosing to go full time into something that I don't have any money coming in from. So for him, of course, and as a parent, I would probably be very worried for my child if they told me they were going to do that. But I think once I explained to them that I see a potential in this, I really believe that it's going to make money one day, they're a little bit more okay with it. And I also told them that I was just going to do it for 1 year and see how I go. And I guess the win for them was I wasn't moving out. Yay for my parents. They loved for me to be at home. But also I was then using that money to pump into the business rather than using that money to rent. So for them, I think they were okay with it, with that element. And I remember feeling so excited I was going to quit my job because in my head, I thought, I will no longer have to go to meetings. I'll no longer have to go into the office. I'll no longer have to do as much work. I'll have so much time. I'll be able to reach out to loads of sponsors. I'll be able to do like 10 podcasts in a week. I'll be able to do anything I want. I have all the time in the world. How wrong was I? That absolutely did not happen. I was now going to tell my job that I wanted to quit. And I was really, really nervous because I'd also been saying it for so long in my head. Throughout the year, I'd be thinking, I want to quit, I want to quit, I want to quit. So to finally do it was a bit scary. But I remember I was so excited and I just couldn't wait. And I was just so happy to make that decision. And my work were really understanding. I told them that, look, I want to try my own thing. They said it's totally fine. They knew I was doing this anyway, and they wished me the best of luck. Now I had one month left. And obviously, the video was going viral and viral and viral. And I was thinking, okay, I have a great idea. Now, I'd never spoken about this, but I completely failed. This idea completely flopped. And I've never told anyone about it before. You probably know, if you've seen my Instagram, that it's now been taken down. But who remembers when I thought it'd be a genius idea to create a hoodie that says, don't ask me when I'm getting married? What was I thinking? I remember thinking 2.2 million people have seen this video. Obviously, people really resonate with it. And all of the comments were saying, I find it really hard to have this conversation. I don't know how to say it. I'm going to send my family this video. So I thought, why don't I make it easier for you? And so if you wear a hoodie that says, stop asking here, and at the back it says, stop asking me when I'm getting married, not only will it allow you to bring that conversation up in a kind of jokey way, but it will actually genuinely make people look at your hoodie and be like, oh, does it really bother you? Or it will spark a conversation or something. I thought it would help. I genuinely thought it would help people have that conversation with their families. I thought it would help reinforce the message of stop asking me all these questions. I thought it would be cool. It was not. I released this hoodie and I did not get one order. And this is the power, and this is the most beautiful thing around social media. I spent 2 days creating this idea, conceptualizing it, and I executed. Yes, okay, I spent some time talking to suppliers, and yes, okay, I did spend some time deliberating the idea and designing it. But all in all, I would say it was 5 days' work. It really wasn't that much. And no one bought it, and it's totally fine. And I'm very happy to sit here and say I completely failed at an idea and I tried, because this is the power of social media. I spent zero money. It was only my time. I got a hoodie, I printed a design on it, I spoke to a supplier, I thought however many designs I get, I'll just order that many. It will be made to order. And I didn't get any orders, which means I didn't spend any money. And I think this is the most important thing to share is I failed so many times at so many different things. This is an example of something I completely failed at. I read the room completely wrong. Obviously, once I released the hoodies, I realized who on earth wants to wear a hoodie that says, stop asking me when I'm getting married? Why would anyone want to wear that? A lot of people are insecure about it. A lot of the people feel ashamed about it. That taboo is still there. So people don't want to highlight that taboo. People don't want to be wearing it for you to ask them that question and make them feel really uncomfortable, right? And I only realized that once I released the hoodie and realized, why are people not buying it? And it made me think. So that I just wanted to share that, because I think a lot of people look at my journey and think, wow, it's just been like this. This journey has been like this. And the reason I'm doing this podcast and sharing so much detail with you is because I want you to know that it's not easy. And I want you to know that I'm not on this like miracle path. If you're going through something, if you're going through a journey of growth, this is what's happening. And if you're at that low, you will get up again, because I believe that the more lows you have, the more highs you have as well. And so during this time, I remember being really upset when I got no orders, but I just moved on. I just said, look, this is the beauty of having a business online. You spent no money. Yeah, okay, you spent time. People didn't like it. Move on to the next thing. And I think that is really powerful. And if you're going through a journey where you're feeling stuck or you're feeling a little bit underwhelmed, move past it, move on to the next thing. Because if you stay low, and you'll just be stagnant. If you think about what can I learn from that, you'll keep going up and down. And I think that is just a reality. It's never going to be just all the way up. You are going to be going up and down. And I guess that's the beauty of it as well, because when I look back at that moment now, I laugh. I think how funny that I really thought loads of people wanted to buy this hoodie. No one bought it. How funny is that? And I said this in a podcast as well. Every time I fell at something, I think about telling you all in a podcast. I think about sharing it all in a story, because for me, I know my path is going to be like this, in the sense that it's going to be up and down, but I know I'm going to keep growing. And it's so nice to know those moments where I failed and I got back up again, because it shows that anyone can do it. Okay, so August. The last week of my work was in August, and I remember very clearly I booked 4 podcasts during this week. I don't understand why. I was still working, but work was obviously very slow. They weren't really giving me much, and I didn't have to go into the office apart from the Friday. Monday, I had to go to Birmingham to record Ben Francis. I took a day off. Tuesday, I had a podcast with Owen. Wednesday, I had a podcast with Shani. Thursday, I had a podcast with Shamsa. Now, I remember this week very, very, very clearly, because Monday I was ecstatic to go to record with Ben. I was so... Who's calling me? My mum. My mum's always calling me. My mum's always disturbing me. I had to drive up to Birmingham to go to the Gymshark HQ and record with Ben. And that was really so special to me. So with Ben, I'd messaged him a few times before. And then one of my friends told me that he was going to be at an event in London. And I remember distinctly being at work, running there in my lunch break, genuinely sweating, running there in my lunch break just to go and see him and just say, hey, I've been the one that's been DMing you. My name's Shivani. And he said, oh, so nice to meet you. Sure, of course. I mean, he had replied to me. So we had been DMing, but I hadn't got a date confirmed for him. And at that point, he said, well, why don't you just come to Birmingham? Why don't you just come to Solihull and record at the Gymshark podcast studio? And I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So that was really amazing for me to go to that event and see him. I went to Birmingham that morning, and I remember I'd cut the heatless curlers in my hair. They are just amazing. And I remember being like, oh God, I don't even know how my hair's going to turn out. My hair turned out fine. And Ben was so nice. He was just so warm, so welcoming. They had someone there that showed me around everywhere, the person I was liaising with. And I remember recording that podcast with him, and it was only like 35 minutes. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, why didn't I ask more questions? But the conversation just flowed, and it was so easy, and it was just very natural. So I didn't want to ask all the questions of how he started Gymshark and all those things that you could see in other podcasts. I wanted to make it very different. And that podcast went really well. I remember driving back home and I was exhausted. And it was my mum's birthday that day. Yeah, it was my mum's birthday that day. And we were all really tired. So we just got a takeaway and we spent the evening together. The next day I had a podcast. Wednesday I had a podcast. And Thursday I had a podcast. On Thursday evening, I was exhausted. It takes me an hour and a half to get to the studio, and it takes me an hour and a half to get back. And then I'm here for about an hour and a half as well, just because I come half an hour before to make sure everything's set up. I only have the podcast studio for an hour. So all in all, probably takes me about 5 hours if there's no train delays for everything. So traveling Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. On Thursday evening, I was so tired. And Friday was my last day at work, and I was really excited. On Thursday, my boyfriend also had something that he wanted me to go support him in the evening. And I remember we got home at 9:00, and I remember laying in bed. And I remember thinking, I'm so tired. And I was crying. You know when you're so tired, you're crying. And I went to sleep. And the next morning, I could not wake up. It was my last day at work. I genuinely could not wake up. And I remember laying there thinking, how am I going to get up? I asked my mum to get me a coffee, and she was like, no, I'm not getting you a coffee. I was like, Mum, please just get me a coffee. At this point in my life, during August and July, I was drinking, and I'm not exaggerating, 4 or 5 coffees a day. It was insane. I was so tired. I was just trying to push through. I promised myself I was going to keep uploading a video every week, and I was just so determined to do that. And this week I thought again, I'll record 4 podcasts and it'll be okay, because then that means throughout the whole of September, I've got all the podcasts ready to upload. And I remember my mom brought me a coffee. I drank the coffee and I still couldn't get up. So I said, okay, just rest a little bit, go into work. It's my last day. I could go in at around 10. And I remember thinking, okay, come on. You've got to get up. I got up and I felt so sick. I just remember feeling so sick. And I just said, come on, you've got to go. Had another coffee. I got to Euston. I had another coffee. Now, I'd always walk from Euston to my office, which is in Holborn. I couldn't walk. I had to get on the train. I got to the office, and because it was my last day at work, I kind of perked up. And I think that's one thing about myself. When I've got to be okay, I will be okay. And I just perked up. Got to the office and I was feeling really sad. I genuinely found it very emotional to leave Atos, because they were so nice to me. They were so good to me. They were a great company to work for. They supported me in so many different ways. And I really did feel sad to leave. I wasn't enjoying the work, but it didn't mean I wasn't going to enjoy it didn't mean I was going to miss the people. And the office was really nice. And I just remember I was just really sad. I had a hot chocolate. The hot chocolates there were amazing. And I met my colleague, Alex. And I remember just saying to him, I feel so sad. I had a few calls to jump on till about 1:30. We went for a farewell lunch together. And then we came back to the office and it was about 3 o'clock and I didn't have any calls, and I was like, I'm just going to go. So I remember I left at 3 and I said to myself, I feel happy, because I was sad / happy / excited. And I left the office at 3 and I walked to Euston. As I was getting to Euston, I was really feeling sick and I felt like I was going to collapse. Now, bear in mind, during this time, I don't know if I've mentioned it in the previous video, I was on my period this was my 3rd month now of being on my period continuously. And I hadn't made time to go to the doctor, which is a big mistake that I made. I shouldn't laugh about it. I'm not laughing, actually. It's a massive mistake I made to not go and get my health checked out, because at this point, I remember thinking, I've got my friend's engagement. It was my friend's wedding event in the evening. And I did not have the energy to even walk. I remember sitting on the train. I had got another coffee and I sat down and I fell asleep. Then when I arrived home, I went straight into bed. It was around 4:30 at this time. I had to be ready and leave at 6:30. So 4:30 till around 6, I went to sleep. I woke up. Thank God my hair was already done. I had got a blow dry like 2 days before. Don't know why. Oh, it's for a podcast. Oh, yeah. And I remember just being like, how am I going to get through it? And I remember saying, okay, come on, you got through the day, just get through it, you'll be fine. Got there, again, I felt fine. Saw my friends, I felt fine. As soon as we started to eat, I started to feel really dizzy. And I remember I wasn't drinking that night. I didn't have any capacity to drink. Was just so tired. I didn't want to put anything into my body. And I remember I was talking to one of my friends and I just started to feel really dizzy. I remember looking at them like this. I was just feeling really, really dizzy. And they were like, are you okay? And I was like, oh, I don't know what's happening to me. I just need to sit down. I sat down and the dancing started, because it was a wedding function. Everyone was really happy. And I just felt I was going to faint. And I said, I need to go home. And her wedding was on Sunday. And I just said, okay, I have to be good for her wedding and reception, so let me just go home. It was about 9:30 at this time. I went home, I got changed, and I got straight into bed. The next day, I had to drive an hour to collect my outfit. Big shout out to Navia London, who lended me this most amazing outfit ever. It was a yellow outfit. Drove there for an hour, and I remember she was so sweet. She gave me these little chocolate, I don't know what it's called, Hello Panda. She gave me these little mini Hello Pandas because I look so pale. She gave me 2 and she said, have 2 in the car. And I remember eating them to get sugar in myself on the way home. Again, I was just in bed for the whole day. At that point, I was like, I need to go and see a doctor, because I've never felt like this before. I'm so drained of energy. I physically didn't feel like I could get up. I think I just needed to rest, and I was very, very burnt out. Anyway, I rested on Saturday, and then Sunday, I was fine. Drove to Essex, my friend's wedding, had the reception, had a great time. Monday, I came back, and of course, I felt horrific again. So I felt that when I was around people, I was okay. The second I got a moment to be by myself, I would crash. And also the second I would sit down or kind of stop, like at the wedding event on Friday when we were eating and we stopped, that's when I felt it. At the wedding on Saturday, because it was so busy, and at the reception it was so busy, I was okay. I do remember editing as well between the wedding and reception and working. That was so funny. But anyway, on Monday, I realized I have to go and see the doctor. So I went to go and see the doctor, and she said, okay, there is something wrong with your stomach, because I had severe pain in my abdominal area. I had lost at this point 8 kilograms, and I was not doing any exercise. I was eating loads of junk. I was so stressed though. And I think with me, with my body, whenever I lose a lot of weight, it's because I'm really stressed or anxious. Like it just falls off me. And so during this time, I remember thinking, okay, something is wrong. I'm not intentionally trying to lose weight. I'm not going to the gym. I've never lost this much weight before. What is happening? And she said, okay, we need to do tests down here. We need to do tests for your abdominal area. You need to do 12 blood tests. And I just remember thinking, God, I don't have time to be ill. Like I don't have time for anything to be wrong. I just need you to tell me everything's fine and we move on. Anyway, that week I went for my blood test. 2 weeks later, I had to go for scans because you have to book in to get the scans done. Also, it was really funny because obviously when I was working, I had private health insurance and now I didn't. So I had to wait 2 weeks to do the scans. It was quite funny. Anyway, I was thinking, gosh, I never used my private health insurance. And now when I actually need it, can't use it. But anyway, also just realized I have 15 minutes left and I'm still on August. I need to bloody hurry up. Oh yeah, one thing I actually forgot to say was, when I quit my job, I remember on the day that I said I was going to quit, I got a partnership to work with Fable and Main. Now I'd been using Fable and Main for ages, but on the day I told my dad, I had a call with Akash and we both secured a Fable and Main partnership. So I remember that day thinking, I've just told my dad, which was the biggest thing in the world for me, by the way, to tell him. And look, as I've closed one door, another door has opened. So that was one thing I actually forgot to include because I thought that was really momentous. Also, during that week when I went to go and see the doctor, I'd actually connected with Dan, who was the founder of Heights. Now, a couple of weeks before, he put on his story, who wants to be an ambassador for Heights? And I said, me. So he actually sent me a pack of 3 to try and the Brain Care Journal. Now, that week I started to take Heights, and I'm not joking, I felt a huge difference in my body. My bleeding stopped after 1 week. I was sleeping better. I was feeling way more energetic. I wasn't feeling overwhelmed, but I don't know if it's because I quit my job, but all those other 3 things had completely stopped. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is like a magic pill. So I remember telling Dan, this is amazing, this is amazing. And then someone from his team got in touch with me and said, should we have a call? Now, what was really amazing about that was I just quit my job. 3 weeks later, I'd secured a partnership with Heights. And that was so special to me because I remember at the time thinking, for 2 years, I never got a sponsor. And then 3 weeks after quitting my job, I got one, which was amazing. What I will say though, is I should have not jumped to take that sponsorship because it was so short. I wish I had actually taken a bit more time to kind of negotiate a longer sponsorship, because this is the problem that I'm having now is I'm not an expert in sales. I'm not an expert in marketing. I'm not an expert in the podcast. I'm not an expert in editing. I'm not an expert in anything, if I'm completely honest. And I'm trying to do every single role. So when I got that opportunity with Heights to be a sponsor, I said, yes, sure, 1 month is great. What I should have done is actually negotiate for 3 months or 6 months or however long to really test it. Anyway, I'm very grateful for Heights. They are an amazing product. I still take them every single day today. I'm just trying to tell you that perspective from me trying to do everything, and I wasn't able to kind of negotiate in the way that I should have. And if I had an agent or someone, a PR agent or someone that was working for me, I think they would have been able to negotiate a better deal. So this is the kind of downfall of kind of owning your own business and trying to do everything at the same time. But anyway, I was taking Heights and it made a huge, huge difference in my body. And suddenly I've just felt so much better. Now, one of the things that happened in September, which I remember feeling really sad about, was going on holiday with my family. Now, I know that sounds really weird, but this was the first time I'd been on holiday with my family in 3 years. We didn't go on holiday during COVID. We didn't really have anything booked. This was the one time that we had gone as a 4, just us 4 on holiday. And I remember, because I'd quit my job, I remember thinking, I don't need to do anything now. I've quit my job. I'm now doing the editing, but that's fine. The editing is not a big deal. I'll do that on holiday and I'll have that time to relax. I worked every single day on that holiday. I did not go into the pool until the last day. And I remember on the day we got there, it was raining. And so that day, I remember getting my laptop up and then falling asleep. And then at 3-4 o'clock thinking, oh my God, I haven't done any work. And then that day working all evening. And I did take that day off, like the morning off, I guess. But we had just landed there that day. I guess it's not really that much time. And I remember for every day after that, my family being like, are you going to come into the pool? Are you going to come for a walk with us on the beach? Are you going to play these games with us? Are you going to do this? And for every time I was playing a game, I would play with them. And then I would come back and be on my laptop. I would sit there by the pool, but I would be sitting there on my laptop. And I remember thinking, did I quit my job for this? I thought I was going to have more time. I thought I was going to have more freedom. Like, where is the time going? What if I had my job right now? What would I be doing? How did I manage it? And I remember everything was getting even more overwhelming, but it's because I was trying to do more and more and more. At this time, because I'd quit my job, I was thinking, okay, now I need to do this, now I need to do that, now I need to do this. And a lot more opportunities were coming their way. So it was really overwhelming. And I remember reflecting on that and thinking, okay, I need to find a way to work with this, because doing this like this is never going to work. Doing this and working every single day and not taking any time out is never going to work. And I can safely say 3 months later, I have not learned my lesson. So that month was quite hard for me. And I remember coming back from holiday and feeling that, okay, I didn't get a break, but it's fine. I just need to push through. I need to push through. I need to push through. Okay, I'm blabbing loads and loads and loads now. October was the month of Diwali, and I went to about 10 billion Diwali parties. But that was really fun. I got to make loads of really great connections. It was a really good month for me to get loads of new podcast guests in as well. So I was recording podcasts. Nothing really that crazy happened in October. October was quite a good month for me. And into November, my partnership with Heights stopped, which meant I was back to getting 0 from the podcast. But I was also getting more speaker events. So actually at the end of October, I went to go speak at Red Kite. In November, I spoke at Pay UK for their away day, which was really fun. And I really enjoyed doing those two things. So in November, I was very much focused on, okay, I want to start doing these workshops. Now, also in November, I realized, shit, I haven't ordered the performance planners. So for the first 2 weeks in November, I was just heads down trying to do the performance planner. I designed every single page myself. The front cover I did with a team I was working with in October. I was working with an agency for a little bit in terms of, they weren't really an agency, they were just a team of 4 editors. But what happened very quickly is, and I think this is a learning curve for me, I want my podcast to be number 1 in the world. And I'm so determined to make it better and better every single time. When you're working with a team of editors who are working with loads of other people, they just think that you should crop your videos and edit them, and that's it. I need every video to be looked at meticulously so that every week I'm changing one thing, whether it's the subtitles, whether it's the audio, whether it's the thumbnail, whether it's the angle, whatever it is, I want it to be better every single week. So naturally, I'm going to want to spend more time on it. What was happening with the editors is when they were editing it, I didn't see any improvements. I was just seeing it being stagnant. And so it was very difficult for me to work with a team of editors where they didn't have the same vision as me. And they also understood that too. I was the first podcast they'd ever done. So they didn't have the expertise on how to grow a podcast. So I stopped working with them and I started editing myself, which was, again, really difficult. But the good thing is about this whole thing is I'd learned so many skills because I'd been editing myself. So when I didn't get to work with an editor anymore, it was okay. I could do it myself again. So that was fine. I also got nominated for an award at the Asian Media Awards, which was pretty amazing because I still to this day do not know who nominated me. I got a call in August and someone from the team called me and said, Shivani, we have got a nomination in your name. Do you accept it? And I said, well, who nominated me? And they said, we can't tell you. It's an anonymous person. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, that's so sweet that somebody has nominated me for the best podcast. I don't believe there's a best of anything, if I'm honest. There is never a best of anything because it's all subjective. So I just remember thinking, it's okay if I don't win. I'm just so grateful to be nominated. and I didn't win, but the experience was amazing. And, you know, the person who did win, Coffee and Chromosomes, big shout out to you and your podcast. Their podcast is incredible and they're doing it for such an amazing cause. So I was so happy that they got that award. And I was genuinely really grateful to just be there for that evening in Manchester. It was really cool. So thank you, Asian Media Awards, for having me. November, I had a Pay UK workshop, which was really cool. I went there for the away day. We talked about a learning organization, company culture. I really, really, really enjoyed that. And I'd also realized in November, I haven't ordered the performance planners. So I kind of, with the editors I was working before, kind of designed the front cover with them. And then now I had to do all the inside pages. I'd had an idea. I've been thinking about this for 6 months, but I hadn't actually done it. I'd drawn it out a million times. I'm a massive drawer, but I hadn't actually designed all the pages. And it was too late for me to get a graphic designer at this point. So I remember for 3 weeks just doing it every single day, submitted it to my supplier, and luckily, thank God, she got them to me in time. So if you haven't seen the new performance planners, they are on my website, www.myperformanceplanner.com. I have very limited stock. I actually only ordered 80 and I only have less than 5 of every single one because I'm using them for my workshop, which I'll talk about in a sec. So essentially got these performance planners out. Now I was like, you know, I love doing these workshops. Why don't I do them for everyone else? I really wanted to start doing this. Bear in mind, in October, I'd created my very own community. So I told everyone I was going to be doing virtual workshops on there. So to do a goal setting workshop was very natural, but I thought, why don't I do it in person and then give people a performance planner and get to meet everyone as well at the end of the year? Now, organizing this workshop, again, I've never organized an event in my whole life, ever, and especially an interactive workshop I've never done before. So it's in 2 days. I'm very nervous. I'm very ill. By the time you see this video, the workshop will already been done and hopefully it's gone really well. I'm praying it does. But to organize this workshop was genuinely very, very, very difficult. I am an idiot and I basically put it up on my story and then everyone had to put their email into Instagram, which instead of me doing a form, which would have been much easier, I had to hand type 400 plus emails into a spreadsheet. Stupid. This is what I mean. I am stumbling. And I really want to share this with you because when you look at my page, you probably think, wow, you've grown so much and you're focused on the numbers. I'm stumbling at every single point. But what I am trying to do is grow. And what I am trying to do is push myself outside my comfort zone. Because I've never organized an event before, this was really hard for me. I have no idea how to speak to a venue. I had no idea how to find a venue. I had no idea in terms of what I needed to do. I didn't have a form. I didn't have a website, anything, nothing. Created the website with my boyfriend. Thank God he helped me because without him I wouldn't have been able to do it. He helped me create the website for the workshop page. I spoke to the venue. I actually met Gaurav from the Taj at an event, a Diwali event, and he told me he wanted me to record the podcast there. So I had to speak to him about negotiating a rate for me to record the workshops there. So he gave me a special rate to record the workshops there. The original date got moved 3 times, which was a nightmare in itself, but it's because I was organizing it within the space of 3 weeks. My only advertising tactic was through Instagram. I didn't spend any money on marketing. I put it on my story a couple of times on Instagram, and in 2 days we will have 75 people, which is honestly amazing. I'm so grateful that we're gonna have so many people. So essentially, I really wanted to do this. And even though it was outside of my comfort zone, I'm so, so, so excited for this workshop. I am going to be doing virtual workshops in the new year because like I've said, it was just too much for me to do it all in one go. And I know that I wanted to do goal setting in December just because it would set everyone up for the new year in January. I'll be doing a virtual workshop in January. So if you haven't joined my Circle community, please, please, please do. I'll put the link in the description below. So we are in the last year of the month. The last month of the year. And I just wanted to say that December has been a bit of a whirlwind for me with the workshop, with the planner, with the podcast. 3 guests have cancelled on me this month. I've mentioned it about 1 million times. So now I'm not sure, but I really wanted to take a break. Because this year I made a promise to myself that I was going to upload 1 video every single week. And I'm so petty that even though it's probably better to take a break during the last week of Christmas instead of the first week of January, I wanted to make sure I uploaded a video until the last Tuesday of the year. So I will be taking a break, fingers crossed, for the first week of January. And I will not be uploading a podcast on the first week of January. So I can just take a bit of time to breathe. Next year, I have two very big things. One will be announced in February and the other one will be announced in March. They are both massive things that I have dreamt of doing, and I am so excited for them, but I also need time to breathe, to prepare for them, and to make sure that they're amazing because they're a once in a lifetime opportunity. I also have something else to share with you. I'm not sure when that will be shared because it takes a bit of a while to get it going. You can probably guess what it is, but that I need some time, like at least a week, to be off social media, to be to not be recording a podcast, to not be preparing for the podcast, to focus on those few things so that I can make sure that I can utilize that opportunity that I've been given. So one thing I will say as a reflection of this year is I have really enjoyed this process, but I am very, very exhausted, and I need to come up with a strategy on how I can continue doing these podcasts, continue doing the performance planner, continue doing these workshops, continue doing my corporate workshops without being burnt out. And I do think I need to outsource a little bit. So I'm looking for a PA. I'm also going to look for someone who can help me with the performance planner and kind of take that over, because I don't think I'll be able to do the procurement anymore. So during this time over Christmas, I really want to, especially in the first week of January when I take a bit of a break, I definitely want to be thinking about how I can outsource, how I can get perhaps an agency, how I can perhaps get someone to help me manage the podcasts. I'm not sure, but I definitely know that I need help. And I think there's so much power in asking for help, but it is also hard for me because I've done it by myself for so long, and I'm proud of myself that I've done it for so long by myself, but I'm never going to grow at this rate, in my opinion. I'm never going to grow and excel to the next level unless I invest in help and also ask other people for help. So, and also I just want to share one thing, is that I hope in this video it's come across that not every day is amazing, and that this journey has been very, very up and down, and you still have days where you feel low. Before this podcast, I felt so upset because I was thinking, I just lost 3 hours of studio time. I'm so tired. I feel so ill. I've just come into London 2 days before my workshop. I could have stayed at home today and just recovered. But at the end of the day, no journey is easy. No journey is going to be smooth. And if it is, it's not going to be fun when you talk about it. And, you know, you just have to snap out of it. And that's what I've tried to do in every situation where I'm feeling low, is just snap out of it. I hope that in this podcast, it's come across that some days you are going to feel low and some days are going to be much harder than others, but persevering through because you have a higher purpose and you know that the content you want to deliver is going to be valuable. You know, I know that for me, I want to deliver value when I'm delivering this content. So me sharing my struggles and me telling you how hard it is not to complain. It's genuinely to make you feel less alone if you're going through it as well. And I think that we need to see more of that online, because a lot of people in the space, they don't share their struggles, so that you think, oh, they've got their life sorted. No one is perfect. No one has everything sorted 100% of the time. And loads of people go through different struggles. And I think it's really, really important to highlight that all of us still have low days, and you shouldn't be so hard on yourself if you do. It's all about making small improvements over a period of time. It's all about learning from your mistakes, and it's all about reflecting on the year as well. I hope that in this video you found it helpful. I will say one more thing before I end, is always remember to be you. Every single person told me, Shivani, you will never grow your podcast because you don't have a niche. I don't have a niche. Still to this day, I don't have a niche, because I didn't want to just talk around one thing. It was a risk. It was a big move for me to make. I remember thinking, should I have a niche? But I don't have a niche, which is why I don't get so many ads on this podcast. As you all know, there are no ad breaks during this podcast. Yeah, YouTube may send you some, but there are none from me. And that is because I am so focused on delivering the content and the value that I haven't been so focused on the sponsorships, which I need to also do. But in the meantime, if you can, please, please, please like this video, subscribe. It is the only way I'm making money from this podcast, and it's the only way I can grow this podcast and make it better. But please continue to be you. Please continue to be authentic. Do not allow anyone to tell you that you can't do something, because you have the power in you to decide what you can and cannot do. And we all have our own strengths. We all have something that we can offer to this world. And if you reflect on this year, I'm certain you will find it. I am so grateful to everyone this year who has supported me. I genuinely cannot thank you enough for growing my community from 4,000 followers to 105,000 followers today. And I really would not be able to be here doing this, quitting my job, without all of your support. I'm wishing you all a very, very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I will see you in 2023.